and we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Almost Pro Championship here for race 9 of the season. We go to Monza, the Temple of Speed, expecting plenty of fireworks this evening with a pretty healthy grid ready to take to the circuit. There's a few pieces of information to get through as we head into this race. This evening, I'm Tom Dillon, of course, returning after getting covered by Joshua Birch last week. However, we're back after a bit of a break from my half, and there are a couple, as I said, pieces of information that we do need to address before we get into this one. The major news is that a couple of championship contenders, not necessarily the major championship protagonists, so to speak, but a couple of championship contenders certainly will be banned from the qualifying session. That is Lewis Smith and Aaron Saka, those two drivers both not taking part in the qualifying session. And then we've got a couple of new drivers as well. Lucas Herancini is going to return, excited for the return of him, and also Rylan Hughes, a new driver. He will be here this evening, although that being said, I did see a little bit of chat in the Discord. I'm not certain that he will actually be attending this evening. I think he might be taking this one off and then heading in to the next one. We are having a bit of a brief pause here for a moment, just as we wait for one of our drivers. I think it is Luca Sevencini, who actually broke his foot earlier on in the season. He's back, thankfully, now, having been fully healed. So we welcome him back to the league. He's back in that Toro Rosso that he raced at the very start of the season. And, well, he's just jumped back into the lobby. So I think we will be shortly getting going here. And then we'll be ready to tell you all about our qualifying, of course, but as well as our championship standings, because it was very interesting last week. We ended up in a situation where effectively Ferrari gifted Juan Reversi yet another win. He's well on his way to a championship now, and if not on his way, he is certainly going to be, assuming that he's going to take victory in that championship at the end of the season. So, round 9 here at Italy, Azerbaijan sprint race weekend will be up next on the 12th of November. Then we'll go over the sort of last leg of the season, Texas, over to the circuit of the Americas, then Sao Paulo, Qatar, and finally the United Arab Emirates for the Abu Dhabi race. We are now, as you might have just been able to hear in your ears, ready to get going. We've got our drivers in the lobby, and we're just now waiting for that countdown for the qualifying session to start to take place. And we'll be about, I would imagine, 90 seconds or so before we get this one going. So trying to see who we've got in the lobby. All of our major championship contenders are here. We've got Juan Reversi, Ethan Shackleton, and Jay Senkovan all taking it to the circuit, as well as a couple of others. We've got Aaron McGurk, race winner earlier on in the season. He is here as well. And we are shortly going to be making our way down to the circuit. So I appreciate your patience. We just had a little bit more of a pause than normal to get into the start of this session. But we are going to throw down to the circuit once it pops up on my screen. And here we go, heading down to the circuit. Once my keybind would like to work for me. There we go. Down on to the track. Here we are, Italy. Everyone in the pits at the moment, I'm afraid to say, because of course we are just at the very start of this qualifying session. Just getting all of your various pieces of information on the screen. And then ready to get our first drivers out onto the circuit. Let's ride on board then with Teish Mosbergen to start off this qualifying session. Makes his way out of the pits. wonderful circuit here at Monza. Taish will be the first to tackle it. Of course, goes without saying, you're looking at the completely full... Oh, no, he's not made the best of efforts of that. There's Taish Bergen struggling, spinning into the gravel slightly. That will give this driver the chance to get going. I'm having to have taken a couple of weeks out, get my driver names sheet back open to just remember who's driving what car here this afternoon or this evening. A few people out onto the circuit. Here is Aaron McGurk, winner in Austria. Similarly, quick circuit here at Monza, so Aaron might be fancying his chances of taking another victory this evening, but we'll wait and see. Now, remembering we're not expecting to see Lewis Smith out on the circuit at any points this evening, although actually looking down, he's not in the driver lineup, so I don't think he'll be taking part anyway, but it was a qualifying ban for him. Same for Aaron Saka, who also doesn't appear to be in attendance this evening. And of course, the McLaren that was starting his lap was Connor Stewart-Woodard, and he crosses the line now to start his first qualifying lap of the evening, and actually starts pretty well out of turn one, gets a little bit of grass on the right-hand side, now makes his way through Curva Grande. You want to keep right to the right-hand side here on the simulator. Normally you'd take it a little bit further wide, but on the sim you don't really get too much of a benefit from that. Purple in the first sector, of course. He's the first person to set a lap. Into the second chicane he goes, nice and smooth, maybe not picking up as much curb as the really fast guys will be braving through there, but it is the first lap in qualifying, of course. Now through Lesmo 1, making his way up through into Lesmo 2, and he does invalidate at some point, so the McLaren has got to have another go at this. Presumably he'll do a call and then a second lap. A good handle of slipstream here for Aaron McGurk, who might be able to set a pretty decent lap in the opening stages of this one. He's purple in the second sector, faster than Taish Bergen, however, has to back out of the throttle because he was about to go straight into the back of him. Let's see if the slipstream is enough to help him. Makes his way, I was going to say, into Parabolica, but he's disconnected from the session, so it's going to be Ethan Shackleton who hopes to go onto pole. Taish Bergen as well has left the session. Shackleton's actually on an outlap, of course, so we'll go over to Michael Towers, who's in 6th position at the moment, and see what progress he's making on his first qualifying lap. And Aaron McGurk, as I said, is lagged out. Purple in the second sector, although we haven't had any lap times coming just yet, so Michael Towers won't be too encouraged by that. Makes his way into Parabolica, flick down into 5th gear. Probably decent lap time here from Michael Towers. It is 1 minute 20.8. Expecting the likes of Andrea Senkovan and Wongsvaart Reversi to go slightly faster than that, but still a decent banker, and of course the first person to set a lap time quite late into the session. Already had about 6 minutes or so of running here. He'll be right on board with the very quick Ethan Shackleton. Makes his way through Ascari. Picks up the curve beautifully, will hit 8th gear as he makes his way into Parabolica, spotting that 50-meter board. We'll use all the track on drivers left and then just dip it in, use the runoff on the outside, but careful not to invalidate. Looks like he's going to go faster here, is he, than Michael Towers? He is, but only about 0.2 of a second, so Ethan Shackleton goes to the top of the order. Who's that in the background starting a lap? I believe that actually is the Haas of Wongsvaart Reversi, who makes his way down into the first corner. Green flags in the air. Expecting this to be a pretty decent lap. Hits the brakes hard for the first corner, picks up plenty of curb. Third gear, interestingly, being used through it. It was once upon a time you'd be running down at least into second gear through there, and then keeps right to the right-hand side into Curva Grande. And then we'll just want to spot that sort of 75-meter marker, but he's invalidated, made a hash of it. And Wongsvaart Reversi won't be able to complete this lap, which instead gives the opportunity to Andreas Senkovan as Lewis Smith has arrived. He's made his way into the lobby. Andreas Senkovan then looking pretty speedy in the second parts of this lap. His teammate did a 1 minute 20.6. See if Senkovan can go any quicker. He's purple in the second sector. He's pretty quick through Ascari, running 6th gear, using all the curbs that he can. Now picks up a bit of slipstream as well from, I think that's his teammate, Ethan Shackleton's. The Ferrari not shooting themselves in the foot so far this week, using that slipstream to their advantage. However, I think Senkovan didn't carry as much speed through Parabolica as he perhaps would have liked. So power his way up to the line, will be in the 19s. It's a 19.7 for Andreas Senkovan. So that slipstream working for him beautifully. And it's his first real stab at Wongsvaart Reversi of the day, as Reversi, of course, will be looking to go for his second lap. And is this a lap in anger for Reversi? Certainly doesn't look like it. Looks like he is coming into the pit lane, so won't be doing a call and then go again. And actually the drivers at the very summit of this field haven't really been able to set too many representative lap times so far throughout the course of this session. So Reversi makes his way to finish off his in-lap. The two Ferraris behind him. Once he does come into the pit lane, of course, we can sort of... Oh, he doesn't come into the pit lane, actually. He's going to go again, so it was a call for Reversi, and now, albeit 10 seconds off the pace, he's going to go for a flying lap hit. So just getting that battery charged. Big lock-up into the first corner, though. Hemming as well, there is a 93% chance of rain throughout the course of this race. So that would maybe suggest why the lap times aren't quite as far down as we would have expected at this point in the session. Well, let's run on board with Reversi, who this time gets the second chicane almost perfect. Runs a lot of curb, as I alluded to earlier on in the session. The engine's whining all the way through the first Lesbo. Needs to be so careful about track limits at the second Lesbo, and Reversi chucks the car in. Almost using the steering wheel to scrub the speed off through that second Lesbo, and it works just about okay for him. He's 6 seconds faster than what he was in the second sector. That's to be expected. Ascari looks pretty good as well, and he's going to pick up some slipstream from the car on the right-hand side, so close to the McLaren of Connor Stewart-Woodard. Now 8th gear, stretching 205 mile an hour as he hits the brakes, flies into Parabolica. Makes his way up to the line. Is this going to be pole for Wongsvaart Reversi? You bet it is. He's 3 tenths of a second faster than Andreas Senkovan. And that is pretty much all she wrote in terms of Wongsvaart Reversi's first lap time. I don't think many people are going to go faster than that. Senkovan back into the pit lane, and Ethan Shackleton has made his way into pit lane as well. Connor Stewart-Woodard getting ready to start a lap. I think he's on a lap at this point, actually, as you see he's following Wongsvaart Reversi, of course. Just want to quickly run on board with him as he makes his way into the second Lesmo. Decent lap so far. Connor Stewart-Woodard won't be threatening the very top of the timing tower, I don't think. But certainly we'll be looking at that kind of 5th place where his brother currently sits. And up to the line, it's 22.5, so he's second half off where his brother was sitting earlier in the session. But the majority of these guys will probably be using wet setups throughout the course of this session. I think that is a crucial distinction to be made as Carl Stewart-Woodard improves by 5. Get into the top 3 if he keeps up this pace right now. Into the final corner, Parabolica he goes, 203 mile an hour. So he's a couple of mile an hour down on where Reversi is at that part, but using probably less battery at this stage as well. Up to the line, is it going to be the lap for Carl Stewart-Woodard? It is 1 minute 20.3. He gets into the top 3 for the first time this season. However, still lots of very, very fast drivers yet to set a lap. Remember, Lewis Smith is rather angrily looking on at this with the qualifying ban applied to him. Whilst we have a moment here, I do want to take a quick look at the championship standings. If you haven't had a chance to do so throughout this busy session, and you can see it's quite representative of real life Formula One at the moment in terms of these championship standings and where we seem to be sitting. Because Reversi has got that kind of 60 points almost gap back to Andreas Senkerman. It's 59 points to be exact if my mental maths are correct. Ethan Shackleton playing much of the wingman role throughout the course of the season. He's sitting in 3rd. Lewis Smith and Aaron McGurk are your top 5. An interesting battle for 4th in the championship. Michael Towers also plodding along. And Kenneth Sallet and Carl Stewart-Woodard are tied on 49 points, interestingly speaking. And as we see Kyle making his way into the pit lane, we can go over to the team's standings where Ferrari have actually struck back at Haas in recent weeks, 225 points, 204. So I think Ferrari certainly expecting to be probably doing quite well in this championship as Aaron McGurk has gone into 2nd position. That's interesting. We missed that as we were looking at these standings. Let's go away from those as Haas and Alpine, the rest of your top 3. But look at the gap between Alpine and Williams. It's a very, very close fight into the second half of this season right now. But Aaron McGurk, 1 minute 19.7. He goes faster than Andreas Senkervan. Only just. And now makes his way in to the pit lane. So this second run in qualifying is going to be absolutely crucial as everyone will soon be making their way out for it. We've got about 3 minutes to go in the session. The yellow flags you're seeing in Sector 3 are because of Aaron McGurk going slow. He's within his rights to do so. Of course, the game just isn't quite up to representing that as much as real life Formula One is. Of course, normally you'd get the white flags for that as Connor Stewart-Woodard has retired from the session, so he doesn't want to set another lap in the next 3 minutes. The problem we've got right now is Michael Towers makes his way onto the circuit. And the problem we've got is that as we see Michael Towers making his way around, no one really wants to go out right now because then they won't be able to get that final lap in close to the end of the session. But the other point is that the reason for doing so is that you don't get affected, or you get the maximum benefit of the track evolution. The problem is when there's no one going around the circuit, track evolution stays exactly the same. So everyone stays in the pit lane wanting to make sure that they have no effects. And of course, track evolution is quite significant on this game because it is scaled to try and give the most, well, I'm not going to say realistic, but the most competitive results. Running on board with Towers. I don't think this is going to be a great lap, and it's not. He's backed out of it and has come into the pit lane, so makes a lot of sense to him. The only consideration I would say is the Ferraris make their way out, and look at that, they make their way out in tandem as well, so they're really, really expecting here to make their way onto the circuit together and try and get a bit of benefit of slipstream from each other. Slightly unexpected, actually. They need 3 tenths per second to get faster than Aaron McGurk and Wong is about to reverse C, so Ethan Shackleton will be able to do that. What's interesting to me, though, is that Ethan Shackleton's gone behind Andreas Senkovan. You would surely expect him to go ahead. If you really wanted to sacrifice the time, you'd basically completely forget about it and allow Shackleton to get through. Now, I wonder, are they going to do any games here? Because if they were really smart, Wong's about to reverse, he's just kind of prowling behind. He's going to get some slipstream from these guys as well if he speeds up. So I wonder if the Ferraris are inclined to slow down here as we go into Sector 3. Or has Senkovan even gone so far ahead that he's bolting? He is. So he's bolting, which means there's going to be no real benefit from slipstream at all unless he slows back down. He'll be the first to cross the line regardless. And I wonder if Ethan Shackleton now, surely you would think, just slow down and let Reversi through. There's no point risking giving Wongsvat Reversi any slipstream at this point in the championship battle. You need to kind of help out your teammates here as Senkovan starts his lap. So the Ferrari's going out in tandem, but they're not going to help each other out by the looks of it in this session, unless, of course, Senkovan invalidates, in which case he can sacrifice this session for his teammate. Into the first corner, we'll be watching this lap with a keen eye because he needs 3 tenths per second to get himself on it to the top spot. And really, he needs to start making some impressions in the championship battle if he wants to be the champion at the end of the season. Sector 1, though, is not purple. He's a tenth of a second off already, and he's not fantastic through the chicane either. However, Sector 2 still has some improvement yet to come. Lesmo, not perfect either. This is not the ideal lap time from Andreas Senkovan already, as we're seeing, and now he invalidates. He's out of the qualifying session. The next question is Aaron McGurk. How's he going? He's behind Reversi, so we'll keep an eye on your championship leader as he makes his way up to the Sector 2 timing line. And across that timing line, he's improving by a tenth of a second, so this is really, really good stuff from Wongsvat Reversi, looking to secure pole position. Knows Aaron McGurk needs 3 tenths of a second, which is so difficult to gain on Reversi, and he might need more here as he makes his way into the final corner. Reversi won last week. He might be on track for pole position this week, make his way up to the line. Will he be in the 18s? He won't, but it will be a 3 tenths of a second improvement. So now McGurk needs to find 7 tenths, and as he crosses the line, he's only able to find 1. And it is Wongsvat Reversi on pole position for the Italian Grand Prix. Carl Stewart Woodard is so far knocked out of the qualifying, knocked out of the top 3, excuse me, and made a mistake on his laps, crosses the line and goes 5th. So that's unfortunate for him, not quite able to get the top 3 at this, well, for the first time this season, but I don't think he'll mind too much. Pretty good drive from Kyle, and I'm sure there's going to be opportunities later on in this race, maybe for that session. Here we go then. Looking at the results, Wongsvat Reversi on top of the order, and it's Aaron McGurk, Andreas Senkovan, Ethan Shackleton, and Carl Stewart Woodard, your top 5. The major news for me there is actually Ethan Shackleton sitting in 4th position. He got a bit of help from his teammate on that final lap after the invalidation from Senkovan. And that has meant that Ethan was able to squeeze his way into the top 5. Carl Stewart Woodard in 5th position, of course. Then it's Michael Towers, and the last of the people to take part in qualifying was, of course, the Toro Rosso, Connor Stewart Woodard. So I'll hastily get the loading screen off of your screens at home. I'm also going to bump up the audio a little bit for those listening at home, just so you can hear the cars in all their glory a little bit better. And it won't be long before we get into this race. It will be about a 30-second wait or so. We're just waiting for, as well, Aaron McGurk, because I can tell you the really exciting news is that it is bucketing it down on the circuit. It can be a little bit tricky to tell really what the weather conditions are, but it is very, very dreary. And that suggests that this race is going to be a little bit more interesting than we were first anticipating. Everyone will have seen that as they're out on the grid right now. We can't see this as spectators. But as we wait for the last couple of drivers to get themselves into the lobby, it should be about a minute or so from here. As Aaron McGurk is now in, so that's good news for him. I have actually got an update of what the race condition is going to be, and I'm hearing it's going to be wet throughout. This is from Kyle, telling us pretty much wet throughout the entirety of this race. We've got 27 laps ahead of us here around Monza, and therefore they will require presumably a pit stop at the halfway stage. But I do extend thoughts for the wonderful Owen Boldero, who unfortunately is not here today. He's doing some coverage for his university on the US election. So we wish him success with that. But he has told us that it will be medium to hards. But he's given us a very big kind of summary of notes for this one, as he always does when he can't attend. And effectively, it's not going to have any bearing here because it's completely going to be wet, and we kind of know what the strategy is going to be, and I think it's going to be wet throughout. And Carl Stewart Woodard has now told us that he's not put on a wet setup for this one, so that is not going to bode well for his chances throughout the day. This game is so unforgiving when you put on that wrong setup. And now we can go down to the formation lap and get ready to see just how interesting this is going to be, and also what tyres everyone has put on, because I'm assuming that it is going to be completely the wet tyres being used. But you do never know. Drivers can sometimes be a little bit interesting. Everyone then on wet tyres as Aaron McGurk back in the lobby, but I don't know quite if he's in control of that Williams. We'll wait and see. So it might be between Senkovan, Shackleton and Reversi this race. I would remind you of the championship standings. It's such a short outlap here, or formation lap here at Monza, that I don't really want to get into that too much. But it is Reversi looking very comfortable. And what we really need is to see Reversi retire from this race, have Andreas Senkovan win it, and then all of a sudden the championship battle is back alive with the deficit being halved. However, with the consistency of this guy, I think that is going to be rather unlikely. Through Ascari they go. This is a lot more of an ice rink when all the drivers are going through there in wet conditions, so that will be interesting as well on this first lap. Remember, no DRS. Should go without saying. I think everyone watching this should be familiar with the basic rules of Formula 1, but no DRS available to the drivers throughout this race, so they will have to rely on doing it on the circuit, which is a great shame because this track lends itself very nicely to the kind of spam of that DRS. But Reversi will make his way up to the line to start this race. And hopefully everyone will get through the first corner relatively cleanly. Last couple of drivers just slotting into position at the back of the grid. Then we'll have the green flag. Everyone will do that little jolt as the game goes into mode. We'll get ready to get going. Look to the lights then. Lights out, and away we go in the wet here in Monza, and it's a good start for Wong's about adversity, or is it? No, it's not. It's a fantastic start for Aaron McGurk, almost, but he gets himself all crossed up. Even though he was alongside Reverse, he has to back out of it. That gives Shackleton an opportunity on the inside line as everyone makes their way into turn one. It's all very awkward. Reverse's off the road. Andreas Senkovan is off the road as well as Shackleton makes up a couple of positions. Senkovan falling down the order. Michael Towers already up into fourth position. Wong's about Reversi with a 10-second time penalty as for Andreas Senkovan as well. So both drivers getting it wrong at the start of this race. Now as they snake down into the second chicane, we ride on board with the Ferrari of Ethan Shackleton, who's trying to attack Aaron McGurk. Does it on the inside line and finds his way through as well. So Aaron McGurk is going to lose out on that second position, now on the third as well, because Michael Towers is on the inside line. What can Towers do? Into the second, Lesbo goes to the inside, but McGurk just about gets the best of him. Now Andreas Senkovan with a lot of work to do in this session throughout the next 27 laps. He goes to the outside line, even with that 10-second time penalty. Doesn't quite use that ERS though, and Michael Towers is able to hold on for the time being, but an utterly chaotic first lap where Wong's Versi ends up leading it by 3.2 seconds. Senkovan now gets it better through Ascari, is ahead of Michael Towers, and starting to look further forward, if you can see through the spray, at the driver just in front of him, which is now Aaron McGurk. There's 9/10 of a second in between those two drivers. Aaron McGurk chasing after the ever opportunistic Ethan Shackleton. Reversi flying away at the top of the field. There's a battle further behind as Castro Woodard gets himself past a driver who actually isn't in the session. Teichmos Bergen and Lucas Terrancini are not taking part in this race, but Woodard is now past them, so we can at least start racing against his brother in a few moments' time. Keeping an eye on Senkovan in this kind of pack as they make their way through. 3.8 seconds at the lead of the race, but of course Reversi, as it stands, won't be winning this one, as I think we've got side-by-side action just further ahead. We did for a brief moment in time. McGurk really looking to get himself ahead of Shackleton, and now goes to the inside line. They're side-by-side through Lesmo. So tricky through this part of the track. Able to get through is McGurk, but looking back to duck to the inside is Shackleton, and McGurk again holds firm for the time being, looking for what I believe will be his third podium of the season so far. This is helping Senkovan try and get back into contention here. If there is a safety car, of course, that'll play into the hands of both Senkovan and Reversi, as they can serve those 10 seconds worth of penalties without actually losing too much track position around this circuit. But already 5 seconds, he's already almost got that penalty completely reversed, is Reversi. As now Lewis Smith, starting from the back of the grid, makes his way down the inside of Michael Towers. This is a brave move into Parabolica, and it's a move that works out for him down the inside line and through. Lewis Smith into 5th position, but there is going to be a counter-attack from Michael Towers almost certainly as we ride on board with the Toro Rosso driver. To the inside line he goes. It'll have to be done on the brakes if he wants to do it. It's a guessing game on where to brake into the first corner here. Smith is going to have his run compromised, and Michael Towers can't quite make good on it, and it's Lewis Smith up into 5th position. Out the first 3 laps of this race, but now they make their way back through, and it seems to be that everyone is just about okay. So McGurk hoping that the servers don't play up for him once again, as we're lapping in the 1:30s at the moment. That's the pace set by Reversi. These guys won't be doing that pace, I can tell you surely about that. Into Ascari we go, and McGurk is faster into the corner, but who's faster out of the corner? That's what matters in these wet conditions. Looks like it's Shackleton, but I don't think Shackleton has got too much to say, particularly into Parabolica. Looks to the inside line very briefly, but more trying to get visibility. Goes deep into the corner, might be able to carry speed out of the corner regardless though, as Reversi goes even faster. 1:31.7, and there is a lot of speed carried through the corner for Ethan Shackleton. The slipstream so powerful here at Monza. However, Shackleton hasn't quite got the straight line speed to really challenge, unless he now goes to the inside line. Senkovan looking to challenge as well. McGurk almost goes deep as they snake through the first two corners. Shackleton makes a mistake. That gives Senkovan surely an opportunity. He had to check up. He had to check up to try and stop going into the back of his teammate. Now Lewis Smith catching up to this pack. 3.2 seconds, the interval only at this point in the race. And Senkovan is not a million miles away either. Back on board with Shackleton, who's really having a tough time getting past Aaron McGurk in these really wet conditions, but seems to overall be the faster driver through the second Lesmo. And still, McGurk holds on, but Shackleton giving him a very tricky time. His teammate in the background as well. Can to the outside line. The Ferrari goes at the home circuit. A Ferrari, of course, on the outside. Ethan Shackleton, Andreas Senkovan is involved as well, all the way around the outside, sailing through quite literally at the parabolic. That's a fantastic move from Ethan Shackleton, and it compromises McGurk's run. So surely he's there for the taking. We're right on board with Andreas Senkovan, who's so good at managing his ERS, but is he going to be good enough to challenge here as McGurk goes to the inside line? He's deploying all of his battery charge as well. Shackleton will try and brave it out on the outside line, but there is no way through. He's gone deep into the corner, gives Senkovan the run maybe. He's down into the lower gears, and there is team orders at Ferrari. I'm almost sure of it. Shackleton moved over to driver's left on the exit of the corner, and I think that might have just been a bit of team order to say, go and attack him. Senkovan's the one in the championship battle. I think it's fair to say Shackleton's probably a little bit too far back at this point in proceedings to really challenge Reversi, and they know Senkovan really needs to score some points. He has got that 10-second time penalty, of course. Whether that will be removed by the stewards in the post-race, I'm not too sure, because I think everyone would agree that it is probably a little bit unfair to call what happened a corner-cutting penalty. But Senkovan is particularly quick in this race, as Michael Towers, by the way, in the meantime, has got back past Lewis Smith. So that's a slightly, I wouldn't have expected the battle, at least. I am also aware of a battle going on between the two brothers, Connor Stewart-Woodard and Kyle Stewart-Woodard, but I want to keep an eye on this battle because it's so important for the championship proceedings that it's really important to see the result of it. Senkovan is attacking, and he's got plenty of speed. He's not using a lot of ERS, but he's got the run on the outside line. Can he brave it out all the way around the outside? Andreas Senkovan, Aaron McGurk is going to have to defend. It's so close on the exit of the corner, and they'll stay side by side all the way through Curva Grande. McGurk has the tighter run. However, I think the Ferrari will have the better speed as they go now into the second chicane here at Monza. It's to the inside line for Senkovan, but McGurk, oh, there's contact between the two of them. They check up completely, and I think there's a bit of wing damage for Andreas Senkovan. I saw something fly off the car as Shackleton now has a little look down the inside line. McGurk is all over the road. Senkovan's all over the road as well. Shackleton's back into third. And there was a bit of contact that meant that Aaron McGurk goes off the road. We see now 11 seconds in the lead. Wongsvat Oversi, he's flying away with this one. He was pretty weak actually in the wet last time we had a race in the damp conditions. That being said, he got so much quicker throughout the course of that race. He did end up going on to win it, but definitely not the dominant figure he was in some of the dry rounds we had. However, that has completely changed its head this time by. Senkovan now once again looks at his team, and I'm sure there was team orders there. Might have been that Senkovan just literally, Shackleton simply made a mistake, as now Senkovan with ease goes to the inside and should find his way through on his teammate. They really need to do a little bit more working together here to the Ferraris. Wanting to get the better of this circuit, of course. We do now have an opportunity to go to the guys at the rear of the field at the moment. It's the battle for 7th position. Lots of championship points on offer there, 10 points in all. not quite 10 points, excuse me, 8 points, I think, for 7th off the top of my head. But either way, Carl Stewart-Wood has now got past his team, and he showed incredible pace in its qualifying session. But you can see there, is really struggling on the exit of corners because he is running a dry setup in that car, so it's not got the downforce he would like. We'll probably be adding a little bit of wing on during the pit stop, I would suspect, will Kyle. And if he can do that, then should just help him a little bit. Just get a bit of a pointier front end. It's difficult to come by in these conditions. Well, Ferrari need a safety car. Senkervan needs to get past Aaron McGurk as well. Into Parabolica they go. McGurk's looking very impressive in this one, but he's gone deep there, and that gives Senkervan the run on the inside line. It's everyone waiting for each other to make a mistake. And it's purple in the final sector for Senkervan as well. He's rapid in this race, but he's battling with Aaron McGurk into the first corner. We'll go to the inside line. Look at Shackleton. He's there as well. And McGurk just outbreaks Senkervan for the time being. The Williams being so strong in this race. Remember, pit stops will be a consideration as well. I'd expect both Reversi and potentially Senkervan to take and serve their penalties under that pit stop. I mean, they're stationary for 10 seconds. Can be done under safety car as well, though, remember. I don't think there'll be a safety car here. We haven't seen a safety car for a few rounds in the Almost Pro Championship. Still on board with Senkervan, but Sector 2 seems to be where that Williams driver is just a little bit more strong. A little bit stronger, I think, is the word I was looking for there. However, he's made a mistake out of Ascari, and Senkervan invites himself alongside. This might be the move to Parabolica. His teammate did it a few laps ago. Now Senkervan tries to do it himself, but it won't quite materialise for him. Shackleton watching that, saying, I can show you how that's done. Still, there's a run for Senkervan here. To the outside of Aaron McGurk he goes, and will try and sail on through. And does sail on through. Good move for Andreas Senkervan. Oh no, he's gone deep. That is not ideal. He'll now have to let both of them through, I think. The game has told him to do so. And Andreas Senkervan just overcooks it. Shackleton now fancies his chances to the outside line. Second chicane all the way around the outside. Can he squeeze through here? He's on the curb. Gives his teammate an opportunity to come back at him as around the outside goes Andreas Senkervan. Ethan Shackleton on the inside line surely lets his teammate through. He doesn't. He tries to brave it out and does. Stunning racing between these guys, but surely there comes a point when you've just got to work together. Ferrari, as they did 7 days ago, tripping over themselves. Ethan Shackleton then, as we see in the background, by the way, as Reversi gets faster and faster and faster in the background. And you've got Lewis Smith, who has now got a gap to Michael Towers. He might be in this battle very shortly indeed, as the pit stop phase comes up on us. The mediums could last the distance. Sorry, the wets could last the distance, by the way. That's not out of the equation. There's no major fight into the first corner. Still just that second separating, all from second to fourth. Reversi almost a quarter of a lap ahead of these guys at this point. See how tricky it is for Ethan Shackleton. Senkervan falling away a little bit, and Shackleton still trying to get past Aaron McGurk, who's driven the widest Williams I've ever seen throughout the first 10 laps of this 27-lap contest. Might have thought it would end there, but McGurk again just puts his car in the right spot. That might change here, though, as there's almost contact on the exit of the Ascari chicane. Shackleton goes to the outside line. He's in the wetter part of the track, though, and he lets his teammate through. So they're working together a little bit now. Ferrari is back to the outside of Parabolica, goes Senkovan. That won't work for him, as his teammate's back alongside him. All of a sudden, he's all away on the curb. Is Andreas Senkovan just trying to use a bit of that ERS that he's got. The problem is it's such a powerful circuit. He's charged all of it up. As Andreas Senkovan, now comes the attack. He's on the outside line of Aaron McGurk, and he brakes so late. Has he got it all collected up there? Andreas Senkovan still tries to brave it out, but Aaron McGurk on the outside line for the second corner of this track is then able to just about edge him out, and because he had his wheels ahead at the apex, it meant that Senkovan just had to back out of that one to avoid climbing into the back of the Williams. But again, this is cracking racing. As McGurk has got two Ferraris attacking him from behind, and so far hasn't let either of them phase him whatsoever in the first 11 laps of this one. Shackleton not a million miles away from Senkovan. Senkovan not a million miles away from Aaron McGurk, but the mistakes are becoming fewer and further between. Want to check in on Reversi as well, who is still at the top of this field, and 17 seconds, that penalty seeming are rather inconsequential at the moment. He's close to having an entire pit stop advantage on everyone else, and close to coming up to the back of the two humans in this race, the last two humans in this race, which is Carl Stewart-Woodard and his brother Connor Stewart-Woodard. Both of them, by the way, have lost a bit of ground to Michael Towers and Lewis Smith. Michael Towers is into the box. This is big. First pit stop of the race that we've seen. And it's another set of wets. Oh no, it's not, it's inters. Inters for Michael Towers. So that is now suddenly a very interesting development in this one. As both, I missed this actually, as Senkovan now takes the opportunity to go to the inside of Aaron McGurk through the second Lesbo. Can he get it done here? He can briefly. Where's McGurk? Back on the outside, but he's just about got it worse. We're three wide as through goes Shackleton. Shackleton into second, excuse me. Senkovan into fourth. I misidentified the two Ferraris, so it's Shackleton who finally breaks the defense of McGurk, who goes into the gravel, and that'll allow the Ferraris both to go through. So the wall of defense that has been put up by Aaron McGurk for the last 12 laps of this race is finally broken as Reversi's into the pits. He's going to be putting on inters as well. So I wondered why Stewart-Woodard had fallen so far behind, as Reversi will serve his penalty as well. But it's because he's had the inters on, and everyone else has proven that that is now working. Senkovan takes the lead of the race as Lewis Smith gets a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is really huge, because that takes a lot of pressure off of Andreas Senkovan, who re-emerges. Actually, it's Shackleton, excuse me, who's decided to go first. That is a big change. Ferrari have let Shackleton go first. And I do wonder if that might just allow him to get ahead of Andreas Senkovan. Though, of course, Senkovan, who's still battling with... It's another 3-second time penalty, by the way, for Lewis Smith. But who's battling still with Aaron McGurk. Of course, Senkovan will fall behind anyway, because Lewis Smith won't be serving a 10-second time penalty, as Senkovan would be. Still, by the way, look at this. Reversi's re-emerged 9 seconds ahead of Ethan Shackleton, despite taking a 10-second time penalty when this has been all on completely changing conditions and completely green flag running as well. He's purple in the second sector, is reversing now. The question is, are we going to get a change back to dry at any point in this race? The rain is easing, I can tell you that much. But is it easing enough? And now, the second question has to beg is, will Senkovan come into the pits? He will. Or is anyone just going to bank on this drying up in enough time for them to strap a set of dries on straight away? McGurk into the pits as well. Senkovan will serve his 10-second time penalty. And Reversi takes back what was his and is into the lead of the race. He's gained so much time on the new Inters. As we've gone past half distance, this would have been the pit window anyway. And you can see Michael Towers has actually gone fastest, 1 minute 29.4, so the track is getting there. I don't think it will be drying up completely anytime soon as the rain's still pattering down. Senkovan has now got a bit of work to do. He's re-emerged behind Michael Towers and behind Lewis Smith. He's 5.5 seconds down on them. And should have the pace to get back close to them. And maybe even secure himself that 5th or maybe in 4th position. The thing he's got to remember as well is that he's actually within range of both of them with their penalties, because Lewis Smith will fall down 10 seconds. Michael Towers will lose 3. And that will put Senkovan back into 5th position, of course, because Smith will go behind Senkovan. Towers will go behind, ahead of Senkovan, but ahead of Smith as well. So that's how that works at the moment, as the entire field has now made their stops. And Lewis Smith suddenly battling with the Williams of Aaron McGurk, who's lost significantly to Shackleton. It was 6 seconds that the Inters were faster than the mediums at the end of that one, by the looks of it. And Lewis Smith has suddenly got a sniff of a podium here, but with 13 seconds worth of time penalties and not a lot of ERS to work with. So I don't think McGurk will be too phased. He's still going to defend regardless. And Lewis Smith struggles as your reigning champion to get the car stopped for a moment. Ewan's 4th gear through the second corner. And it gives him the drive to try and get ahead of McGurk, who once again, different driver, but same defense. And remember, these guys in the teams championship, very close together. So this is very, very big for Lewis Smith. If he gets ahead, then that 3rd place in the teams championship will surely go back to Alpine for the time being. And with Carl Stewart Woodard still putting in impressive work to tick along with points, it is helping them get ahead of Williams, who are now running with 1 single driver, which is, of course, Aaron McGurk. Shackleton then is 9 seconds back from Wongsvat Reversi. If there is any safety car, that penalty is no longer applied to Reversi. So effectively what will happen is he'll be able to race purely for position. But I think the safety car at this point is relatively unlikely. The only time we'll have a safety car is if people trip over each other, which is becoming increasingly unlikely. Smith is falling behind McGurk, who seems to have just a little bit better pace, but he's trying to rev up with his energy. It's only now 2.4 seconds for Senkovan. He'll be sure to try and get this done on circuit as well, if at all possible. So he now, with Michael Towers having a 10-second time penalty, he now will have an opportunity, I believe, to get ahead of both of these drivers and get promoted back into 4th position, which overall wouldn't be a terrible situation for Andreas Senkovan to be in, all things considered. Got that penalty at the very start of this race. Lewis Smith still prowling. If he starts battling with Aaron McGurk, then that does bring Towers and Senkovan back into the hunt. 12 laps still to go. This race will be 11, of course, when Reversi crosses the line shortly, which he does, so 11 laps to go in the race. And Reversi is lapping faster and faster and faster. 2 seconds more gained on Ethan Shackleton than last time I updated you on that gap. As we go on board with Lewis Smith. Just not got a lot of ERS to work with as Lewis Smith. As he tries to deploy what he does have, and a bit of slipstream from McLaren ahead helps Aaron McGurk, but he still goes defensive. The space might open up for Lewis Smith as he gets a better run out of the first corner, but McGurk will just carry, I think, a little bit more straight line speed. Is there going to be more of a run? Overtake still deployed for Lewis Smith. He's using all the tools at his disposal at the moment as he now looks to the inside line, but thinks against it very quickly. That was far too optimistic. And a man with his experience recognised that very, very early on. Andreas Senkovan now all over the back of Michael Towers. Into the second Lesmo they go. Senkovan's got that speed to be with Reversi, just might have the consistency. That's been a theme in the last couple of races, but right now, getting up into 5th position would help for sure as he gets the run. Towers shouldn't put too much resistance up, I don't think. There's plenty of ERS in that Ferrari. And that time penalty is looming over the head of Michael Towers, who tries to defend, but the space is found on the outside line. Is it? No, that dry line is the inside line. Now it's Senkovan on the dry line, and that's enough to put him ahead of Michael Towers. And I think the resistance from the Toro Rosso is going to be a little bit futile. He'll try it again on the outside line. Senkovan's not really threatened by it. He's setting his sights on Lewis Smith and Aaron McGurk now for the battle for that podium position, because if he can get close to them, then the podium might be back on. The annoying thing is, of course, that 10-second time penalty would have him right back ahead of Aaron McGurk at this point and into 3rd position, which I think would probably be a deserving position for Andreas Senkovan at this point in the race, or at the end of this race, of course. It's still Lewis Smith who's trying to make it very difficult. I think the thing to remember as well is that actually the driver who's gone purple was before Reversi, Andreas Senkovan, so he's very, very speedy. 4.2 seconds is a very big gap, though, to chase after in what is not a great deal of time in this race. There'll be 9 laps to go at the line. Reversi goes faster again. 15 seconds the gap now. Effectively 25 if you consider the time penalty unfair, as Lewis Smith is experimenting with lines there on the outside, and McGurk just cuts back to the racing line very late. Right back on board with the Alpine, who uses overtake once more. Aaron McGurk is desperately trying to hold on to this podium, but he's really thinking about Senkovan at this point, I think, as Lewis Smith has that penalty. This is purely a bit of an exhibition for him. He gets that swooping run out of the first corner, but just gets a bit of counter stick, and it allows McGurk to defend again. This is not an easy track to defend on. I want to stress that as well. This is a hugely impressive defence from Aaron McGurk against 4 separate drivers throughout the race. He only got overtaken based on his own mistake. Lewis Smith is still trying to go for this. And a bit of a moment there on the outside. Andreas Senkovan has gained a fair bit of time. Look at them calling their tyres on the inside line, maybe suggesting that we're getting to the point where they're considering dries. That being said, it's still raining, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. And he's also got to get past 2 very, very tricky customers as Senkovan. 8 laps now to go. And McGurk once again is defending from trouble for Senkovan is you'd rather these two drivers be a little bit more spread apart so you can get one and then get the other. You don't want to be caught up battling. Get the better of you. Really just have to stalk, and you need time. And crucially, time isn't quite on Senkovan's side. It's only 9/10 of a second now, though. Lewis Smith has fallen back on this lap. Let's see what happens here then. The Ferrari needing that 4th position so he can chase after the podium in the late stages of this race. That is the storyline, and he needs Lewis Smith to put up, ideally, as little resistance as physically possible. Chasing and chasing and chasing, but Parabolica won't be where the move is made, as he's really throwing that Ferrari around is Andreas Senkovan, as Lewis Smith now knows that his fate might be sealed as far as this battle's concerned. There's lots and lots of energy stored up for Andreas Senkovan, who goes to the outside line and finds it so easy to get past the Alpine, who does have plenty of time penalties, mind you, so he's not inclined to put up the most resistance in the world. But to try and keep his championship hopes alive, at least somewhat, very important that Senkovan did not make tough work out of that, and he's now got 7 laps or so, 6.5 laps to get that 1.8 second gap to Aaron McGurk down. And if he does, then it'll be another podium and 15 points. It'll only be a 10-point swing to Reversi, which still puts him into that kind of DNF range, and there's a good chance as well that Reversi might not bother with the sprint race next week. It is optional, remember. This is the man being chased down. 1.1 seconds back to Andreas Senkovan, who is a man on a mission. He's the only man on Wongsvat Reversi's pace at the moment. A kind of indication of what could have been if this race had panned out a little differently. But I think the thing here is that the second you lose sight of Wongsvat Reversi, the majority of people don't see much of him again, as on board with the Ferrari driver. Flicks it through the chicanes and continues to stalk the Williams ahead of him. He's gaining every single lap, but maybe not quite gaining as much as he would have hoped. Lewis Smith is still there in the background, by the way, and still trying to make the most of this battle if he is able to do so at any point. McGurk has defended for this final podium position for the entirety of the race, including against the Ferrari that now tries to get alongside him. And what's happened here to Andreas Senkovan? He ghosted for a moment there. Has he made a mistake? Looks like he almost certainly did. He ghosted for a second. I saw him bounce across the curb and then just made that slight error. Needs to get Lewis Smith back very quickly, because it's now gone up to 1.2 seconds back to Aaron McGurk. And it's not going to happen in the first corner either, I don't think. So he needs Lewis Smith really to play ball here. Five laps to go in the race. You're watching the Almost Pro Championship. And Time is ticking for Andreas Sankovan, who, story of his season, a mistake has just taken him out again, this time contention for the podium. He's got that 4th position regardless, as Lewis Smith gets another time penalty. If he was really playing ball, he just let Sankovan through here. He certainly was making it difficult. Did he let him through there? He was certainly quite slow on the exit of the corner. Give Sankovan a reprieve in any case, as it's now 7 tenths of a second to Aaron McGurk ahead of him. Just 4 laps to go. Not very long at all for Andreas Sankovan, as Lewis Smith is coming back at him, but I don't think really thinking about a move. We are now in the stage, by the way, where I don't think anyone would brave the dry tyres if it was to dry up. The rain is still pouring slightly. Certainly improving, but if it stopped right now, you wouldn't get the benefit of the dry tyres towards the end of this one. Everyone would just suffer through it. Sankovan still going faster. The Lucas Arancini Toro Rosso has just been passed. The dirty air effect still happened off of ghosted cars, if I'm not mistaken, so that would have affected McGurk slightly, as we still ride on board with Sankovan, who really tries to attack still, but McGurk still holds firm. More blue flags flying. This will be the 2nd lap that they gain on the ghost of Teichmoosbergen. Sankovan is very close still. Now might have a run if he can get an exit out of Parabolica. Then Sankovan is in with a chance here towards the end of this race. We've got 3 laps to go at the line. Out to Parabolica they go, and making their way down into turn 1. Sankovan 128.1 across the line. Considering being in traffic, that's not bad at all. And Aaron McGurk, time for him to defend is rapidly decreasing. Been borderline 27 laps already. As Reversi will have just 2 to go once he crosses the line. Sankovan still attacks though, but still the run doesn't happen. We've seen this before from him. If we have a little spy of the telemetry, you'll see that he's not using any ERS at all, so he's got pace in the bank. He's saving up that ERS for an attack. Only he knows when the attack will be appropriate, but that is the strategy that Sankovan has employed so well when he's been carving his way through traffic this season, which unfortunately has been quite a common affair at times. As the track in a significantly better position than it was a few moments ago. Through Ascari they go. Sankovan is so close. Reversi goes 126.6. He's about 3 seconds faster than where he was at the very start of this race, and will once again ride on board onto the penultimate lap of the race when they cross the line with the Ferrari driver of Andreas Sankovan, who needs this podium so desperately. It's just 3 points that he will gain, but it's 3 crucial points in this championship hunt as he makes his way out of the final corner. There was a real kick of oversteer for him, and it gives the opportunity to Aaron McGurk, but still he'll use all of the battery power available to him in the Ferrari, all of the power he's got as well, to just try and get somewhere close to the Williams who's been in front of him for the entirety of this contest. And it still doesn't really have too much of an effect, as out of the first corner he goes, and he sees McGurk once again just power down the road. This is not ideal for Sankovan, who's used a chunk of that battery charge that he had. Aaron McGurk will shortly be making his way onto the final lap of the race. We've already got Reversi in Parabolica. So just about a minute and a half to go. Let's take a look at the battery charge I was going to say for Andreas Sankovan, and I'll pop it off your screens very quickly because it reveals that there's quite a lot of it. Which means one more proper attack for the Ferrari driver of Andreas Sankovan as he goes into Parabolica, has a little bit of a look at that part of the track, but can't quite do anything about it. as actually he goes deep and Lewis Smith is able to find his way through and all the way into the podium positions. This could be interesting because McGurk has made a mistake as well. If Senkovan can get past McGurk, it doesn't matter about Lewis Smith, of course, as McGurk has been let back through. Lewis Smith lets them both back through so that they can take the gloves off and have another stab at this. We've got yellow flags in Sector 3 very briefly. I'm not quite sure who that was for. I think it was for one of the Toro Rosso drivers, perhaps, but the point is that McGurk is quite far ahead of Senkovan at this point, as Lewis Smith doesn't want to get involved at all, it has to be said. And McGurk is going along so well. There's still going to be another opportunity for these guys yet. We'll rejoin their battle very shortly because it has to be mentioned about this man at 20 seconds with that 10-second time penalty applied in the pit stop. Wongsavat Reversi is so close. He's motoring towards the championship in the APC, and this is another spear into Ferrari on that front. Ethan Shackleton will come home in second position, but we go back to the battle for the final podium spot with the other championship contender. He's so far back with not a lot of ERS to work with. It might be too little too late for Andreas Senkovan, and it looks like that might just be the case. Aaron McGurk has defended for the entirety of this 27-lap race, and he's going to be rewarded with a podium. And to put it to bed, Senkovan gets a 3-second time penalty. So Aaron McGurk stands on the final step of that podium. In 41 minutes, that race was completed. 41 minutes for Wongsavat Reversi as well. Lewis Smith climbs up half the field to finish 5th after getting that qualifying ban earlier on in the day. Won't be too disappointed with that, but it was a Tuesday night drive for Wongsavat Reversi, who makes his way already halfway around his outlap before the final driver has even crossed the line, waiting for Michael Towers to make his way across the line. He's just out of Parabolica right now. And that is the end of the contest here. Confirmation of Wongsavat Reversi, your race winner. Waiting for the podium, and there you go. A Williams driver on it once again. But Wongsavat Reversi on the top step for the second week at least in a row. I believe the third week in a row, actually, as he won last time I did a commentary as well. Applause all round. Wonderful podium in Monza represented in the game. And a well-earned podium for all three. Shackleton, haven't mentioned him too much as we see the race results. He had a really good drive as well. It was 21 seconds behind Reversi, of course, but I don't think he'll care too much about that. But it is Wongsavat Reversi who wins here in Monza. Shackleton was the second fastest man on track in the end. Aaron McGurk holds onto a podium only just. Andreas Senkovan overcooked it a little bit at the end. He finishes 4th. Lewis Smith makes up the rest of the top 5 with Michael Towers just behind. Then it is Carl Stewart-Woodard, Connor Stewart-Woodard, Teish Mosbergen, and finally Luca Serencini on his Ghosts return to the series. So that is race 9 at Monza. We are opening up the waiting room for the interviews as we'll wait for all of the drivers to make their way into the waiting room. Who wants to have a an interview with us? And other than that, what a race that was. Ethan Shackleton is here straight away. Ethan, welcome along to the stream. That was an incredible drive, probably the best I've seen you drive all season. Second place.
Oh, hello. Sorry.
Hello. Did you get any of that? What do you want me to repeat?
I got like the start of it, sorry, but not the end. Start. Yeah, say it again.
Okay, so I was basically saying it was probably the best we've seen you drive. You were the only driver on Reversi's pace. What was the secret today?
I love this track, to be fair. It's always one of my best ones when when you go on the time trial leaderboards and look at the percentage you are in the world. This one's always always the one I look forward to, and it feels good to drive. But I did have a very high downforce wet setup on today that compared to Aaron, it was so hard to overtake. But in clean air, the pace was fantastic. But reversely was still too quick.
Yeah, I think that's been a bit of a theme throughout the season, but still some really good points for the team, and you're flying away with the constructors. So overall, it's actually looking very good at this point in the season.
Yeah, I don't think I could ask for much more today than a P2. And in the constructors wise, thankfully there's no other teammate at Haas, so we're doing quite well there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ethan, for chatting to us. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
So that was Ethan Shackleton. He's already in the call. We'll speak to Aaron McGurk as well. Aaron, we didn't really think, I'll be honest with you, that you had a lot of pace up until Austria this year. You won there, and you followed up with a couple of other podiums, and this was another really, really good drive. And actually, you showed incredible pace, but also really, really good defense. How difficult was it to keep the Ferraris behind?
It was terrible. I used my dry setup and I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, but I think what made it worse is whenever I was kicked from the lobby, my AI put in 3 extra laps of fuel, so I just was an absolute boat out there. And then off the start, like I had absolutely cold tires, and you may have seen me off the start. My rear was dancing around behind Wongswat, and then I was just like, I hope I don't collect anyone just for me half spinning off the line here. But yeah, I just realized I didn't have a lot of pace to pull out. I thought I maybe would have pace to pull a gap on some drivers, but it just never came, and all I could really do was just keep people behind. And it was all going pretty well until right before the pit stops. I made a mistake. Out of the second chicane, touched the grass, and then I think that let 2 of the Ferraris through, and then I was behind Ethan, and then into a scar. I just completely locked up, went off into the gravel, and then really unfortunate for Andrea, because Andrea really should be on the podium, but he got a 10-second, which I think was for having to cut turn 1 due to a lot of contact. So I think Wongzwak got the same thing where he had to cut turn 1 and then it gave him a 10-second time penalty, which is kind of annoying way in the game they don't recognize that, drivers have forced them off. You know what I mean? But anyway, decent podium. I feel like I could have got P2, but in the end, Ethan had more pace and Andrea had more pace, and even Lewis Smith probably had more pace, but was able just to defend like a lion, keep them behind.
Well, exactly right. And I think really importantly as well, you and Alpine having a really good scrap for third in the championship. You are now teammateless, if I understand that correctly. But even again, with the points today, I don't think you're quite. I don't think you quite outscored them. However, you're still hanging in there.
Well, I was kind of hoping to be up there in the drivers. I wasn't expecting to win, but I was hoping to be battling for P3. But a couple of races have just not went my way. Netherlands, I was on holiday and I was trying a different controller, and it was just horrifically bad last time out. So, and I've had a couple of races they've just not went ideally. But I feel like as time progresses, I should hopefully start to catch Ethan. But currently, today he was definitely the better driver.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron. Well done again. Really, really showing a lot of pace.
Thank you.
That was Aaron McGurk, and finally we're going to do our weekly interview with Kyle. Kyle, welcome along to the stream once again. That was an interesting race. How did you manage the conditions?
Disappointed. Disappointed. I had the pace in the dry. I really did today. I felt like I was finally not going to be a back marker for once. But as we saw, yeah, I I got I got Chenkovan off the line, and I was like focusing so much on making sure I didn't let him come back at me into turn 1, and then just missed my braking point. Tried to avoid Ethan, but unfortunately went in the side of Wongswat. Although didn't slow him down, which is quite something. So I had wing damage for the first stint, which wasn't slowing me down too much. Then I managed to box for Inters first, which put me on the front foot for a bit. But by that point, damage was done. I was too far back. There was no coming back really. So I kind of went from there. And then the fastest lap attempt, I just just messed it up and coming out of a scar, which is a shame because I think I would have had it. So yeah, I'm disappointed. I think in the dry I would have done well today, but
Yeah, well, you had a lot of pace in qualifying. I know you finished 5th in the end, but at one point you're running up to 3rd. You definitely had a lot in the tank. I also noticed you were battling a bit with your brother throughout that race. How did you find that?
yeah. Well, I was saying quali. I think it was two attempts up on my final lap before I messed that one up as well. So I don't know if I would have got one more position up, but I definitely would have improved in my time. But yeah, back with my brother. Yeah, it's always fun. It was in the party chat with us this week. He isn't normally. Normally it's just me and Lewis, but he joined us this week. So he was very compliant, but he was struggling just as much as me. So he was happy just to he knew I was the faster driver at that point and was happy just to let me go. Once I'd kind of caught my rhythm, because for a while I wasn't catching him because I just kept getting wheel spin out the corners. But once I kind of realized, what gear I need to be in and how to manage the wheel spin, I was a lot faster than him, and he was very good to me this race.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. We'll speak to you soon.
Indeed, thank you very much.
And to drag in Kyle's teammate, Lewis Smith. Lewis, welcome to the stream. You were very compliant today and with the battle for the podium. Surely it's frustrating knowing that penalty ultimately let you down.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was very frustrating. Obviously, it was my own doing. It was just going into the pits, just too much speed for the amount of grip that I had. And then coming out of the pits as well, picked up a penalty, just went straight on again with two silly mistakes. But obviously, it's been a while since I've raced, so we just happy to be back and get some points. That's the main thing.
But ultimately, you can't look at it as a totally awful day because you've shown once again you had that pace for the podium. And looking forward to Azerbaijan next week. I mean, I'd be very surprised if it rained in there of all places. Sprint race weekend, there's plenty of points on offer, and you're also looking quite comfortable in the battle for 3rd in the constructors.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a positive day from that regard. Obviously, like you said, back in next week, so we've just prepared for that now. In terms of the constructors, obviously, we want to push for as high as possible. Obviously, solidify 3rd I think is the main part. Well, the main goal for myself and Kyle, and from there we can maybe look upwards. But yeah, hopefully we can get some points back for both of us, and we can go from there.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, Lewis. We'll speak to you soon. That was Lewis Smith, and also concludes our stream for the day. So we thank you all very much for watching, wherever you've been joining us from in the world. I have been Tom Dillon. This has been the Almost Pro Championship. We're back in 7 days' time for Azerbaijan. See us then.
And we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.